Welcome to the 12th Annual Council on Aging Community Service Awards. Tonight, we honor the character, leadership, and legacy of Ann Bledsoe France and Bill France Sr. Race fans, please proceed to your grandstand seats. And on the way, enjoy a complimentary Coney Island hot dog, courtesy of Bill France Jr. Please welcome our honorary starters and hosts for today's race, Connie and Glenn Ritchie.
Good evening, everyone. How you doing out there tonight? Welcome to this 12th annual celebration of the Council on Aging Community Service Award. Connie and I are delighted to have you with us this evening. Mike Skinner gave me some great information when I left the table, the 5 B's. Be brief, brother, be brief, and I promise to do that. So I want to say Big Bill and Annie B. France. How appropriate that we honor them tonight encircled by this awesome motorsport stadium. They were passionate community servants and visionaries who have passed that vision and passion of community service along to generations of the France family. We're blessed to have them in our community. And with that, would the France family in attendance this evening please rise to be recognized? Did I see, is Betty Jane there anywhere waving or hollering? Betty Jane, sorry. Jim France, Sharon France, Jennifer Rose France, Jace France, Amy France, and Jamie France.
And Lisa.
And Lisa Kennedy France. And I called Ben a while ago and I said, Ben, are you going to be able to make it? And he said, Glenn, I'm in a race in Dover in the truck right now. So we tried to hook him up with a conference call, no go. So anyway, he's with us here in spirit. So with that, I will be quiet and turn it over to my better half, actually, Connie.
The Council on Aging was founded in 1967, and right now we're taking this opportunity tonight to kick off a 17-month celebration of the 50 years of Council on Aging of Daytona Beach. The dedicated workers and the volunteer board members for both COA and COA Foundation over the years have made it possible for the organization to help many thousands, and I say thousands, of needy seniors in our communities to live out their golden years with dignity in their homes. I'd like for y'all to please join me as I invite all current and past members of the Board of Directors of the Council on Aging and the Council on Aging Board of Directors for Living Gifts Foundation and all members that work at Council on Aging, if you would please rise right now to be recognized. Thank all of you for your committed service to Council on Aging. You have no idea how often I hear off the cuff of people around the community that have used our services or don't know about our services that would like to be in our services. So I think Sarah's going to talk a little bit more to that tonight to get more people involved so they know how to talk to people if they have a problem, because we do so much more than just Meals on Wheels.
Please welcome COA's Director of Philanthropy, Priscilla Chanfro.
Is everyone having fun tonight? Wait a second, I just got a bid. Make sure everyone's bidding on their phone. We have a lot of amazing items. And then, of course, I cannot forget this. Our sponsorship committee, thank you for all your help. Glenn Ritchie, Joe Petrock, and Bobby Thinkford. Thank you so much.
Please give your attention to Daytona State College Professor of Photography, Eric Breitenbach.
The project began after I had attended a seminar in Orlando put on by Second Harvest Food Bank on senior food insecurity. I had never heard of the term. I was shocked to find out that there are 5,000 seniors in Orange County who go to bed hungry every night, that there are 30,000 seniors who don't know where tomorrow's meals are coming from. And I wanted to do something about it. I contacted Council on Aging here in Volusia County. I had known Sarah Gertis for many years, and we decided that a series of short films incorporated into a longer broadcast production would be able to communicate to the community the services that Council on Aging provides. The story you're about to see tonight is that of Luis and Olga Vidal of Deltona, and the crucial assistance that is provided by Concil on Aging aide Lisa Miller.
El estómago, las piernas. ¿Tienes dolor de estómago? What? ¿Tiene frío? Okay, let me turn the fan for him because he has cold, he say. I understand him. I mark all his medicines, the day, the time that he's supposed to get it. He used one syringe every day, and I put the medicine together. I do this 4 times a day, every 4 hours. That machine is a ventilator. The ventilator helps him to breathe. He needs to use that 24 hours a day. When I bring him to the doctors, I use a tank, an oxygen tank. I am very picky to have everything very clean. I don't want him in the hospital, you know. How are you? Okay, sweetheart. Okay, I see you in a couple. Bye-bye. I need to clean this every day, all the time, 4 times a day. Or more than 4 times because when I'm going to use it, I clean it again. This is for him, you know. He fell with the aluminum tube. Nobody knows at this time what happened to him. Nobody knows why he is like that. He is 30 years in that condition. He's alive for some reason. God leave him alive for some reason. You never know.
Hey, how are you today? Good. We're on camera. How about that? Huh? Hey, Mr. Vidal, his care is more involved. He's not a typical client of the agency that I've dealt with before. There's more medical conditions to be aware of, and I like that kind of work, you know, where I'm more involved. I just try my best to make it easier for him and his wife. What? You have pain? Spell it. What's the first? A. E. S. The splint. Put the splint on this one when we're done. Okay.
Well,
It's not really about the job, it's about the people. And I believe we're all here to help each other and to love each other.
put the bed down, Lisa, a
Yep.
little bit in that way.
Yep.
I don't need to put him
You
out
got it.
too much.
I see people suffer, but to know that they can smile at me. Thank you. I see the problems that they have. If I can just make it a little better every day. Mr. Vidal is a very nice man.
Do you love her, Bobby? Oh,
Thank
he sent a
you.
kiss to her.
Thank you.
We married for 43 years. We are going to have 44 this year. And we walking together for 13 years only. Some people tell me, please, Olga, you need to leave because you don't have life. But I say, don't worry about it. I don't mind. I don't mind to stay with him. The day when I need to put him in a nursing home is because the day when I can't continue. My hope for the future? I don't know. Well, to live a little bit longer. But, you know, I am not. I wish if one day he stand up from the bed. God is too much, you know? And you never know one day he stand up from the bed.
Please welcome the Chief Executive Officer of COA, Sarah Gerdes.
Welcome each and every one of you to this launch of the celebration of the 50th year of service of the Council on Aging. That is a big deal. 50 years of serving the citizens of Volusia County. Welcome. As with any event here at the Daytona International Speedway, it would not be possible without sponsors. Thank you to Toyota for stepping up on a national sponsorship. They were amazingly supportive. If you have not visited their injector here at the World Center of Racing, I'm telling you, put it on your bucket list. You have not seen the like of it, so we're thrilled to have them. Thank you, Brown & Brown, once again, presenting sponsor of this event. Not only, yeah, really. We are not the only event that they sponsor. We are so lucky to have them headquartered here. Not only do they provide COA with financial support, but two of our best leaders sit at the table thanks to them. We recognize what a special thing it is to be given permission to honor Big Bill and Annie B. So to Betty Jane, to Jim, to Lisa, thank you. A million thanks. We're so grateful. Glenn said it very well. We are on hallowed ground here. We stand and we sit in this space that has been here since day one. We have a 2.5 oval track surrounding us like a loving ribbon. And for all intents and purposes, other than some potholes and some repaving, that is the track. That is the track that people have watched over dozens of years. Millions upon millions of people have watched it and will see it going in the future. None of this, I look out there and who even thinks of this thing? Bill France and Annie B. It's one thing to think about it and dream about it. It's another thing to make it happen. We are so honored to honor them and so grateful that we had them in this community. We wondered how to honor them. We are a nonprofit, so as you look at the amazing tributes around town to this awesome family, ours is going to seem modest, but it is heartfelt. When you came in tonight, I hope you spotted a 2-foot by 3-foot canvas of one of our favorite pictures of Bill and Annie B. You've seen it 100 times because it's one of the best pictures. We have a large conference room in our headquarters. It's used for everything from training our certified nursing assistants and home health aides to our own board of directors, our own celebrations. It's a very important space to us. We draw a lot of energy from it. From this point forward, it will simply be called the France Room. We're going to hang that photo in there, and every time we go in, we're going to call upon ourselves to rise to the same standard that this amazing couple did. Really basic stuff. Love of family, love of community, integrity, and plain old hard work, and we will live up to that. And now, the COA message. People kind of know about Meals on Wheels. That is the tip of the iceberg with us. Those meals go out from 8 prep stations throughout this county. We have over 500 people delivering Meals on Wheels over the course of a week. We have 7 congregate dining sites. You qualify to be a congregate diner if you qualify for grant services, meaning you could have a meal delivered to your home, but you are still mobile. You're either driving yourself or we're able to get you on a Votran bus, and you come to the congregate dining site and you have some camaraderie and some communion with people around you. Very socialized, very energized, and a lot more fun than being at home. We have 4 senior centers, and let me just tell you, we're an interesting, those baby boomers in the group, we're really a good group, an odd group, because we refuse to acknowledge that we're seniors. And it seems to be as long as we're wearing jeans and still dancing and upright, we refuse to qualify ourselves that way. I walked into our first senior center, the age range was 60 to 95. It is everything from Tai Chi to board games. There are lots of really fun things, like we bring in specialists to help you, people who have iPhones who haven't booted them up to Skype yet. We can take care of that for you. We work with all of the outreach agencies. If someone's having a veteran affairs problem, we bring in whatever sources we need. They are sources of great fun and great activities, so we're lucky to have them. And then it gets into some of the more serious sides of our business. You saw it with Eric's beautiful piece about the Vidals. That's the kind of hands-on service that we do. It isn't pretty. It's not something most of us can do. But we have a core of our 150 people. We have about 80, and that is what they do every day. It's hugely important, and the people who need it desperately. I'm not going to ask you to take a penny away from any charity you currently support. But if you have a little bit more capacity, I'm going to ask that you think about adding COA to your recurring gift. We will make such good use of that money. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for you being the reason we can launch this 50th year. We are so grateful. Thank you.
Please welcome our guest auctioneer, Bo Brewer, assisted by COA board member Dean Kurtz and the COA staff.
As a guy who makes a living, A, out of staying under the radar, and B, I don't ask for money, I'd like to announce my unemployment after this event. It's the auctioneer, that's the don't look in his eyes, and people are running toward the thing. I'd like to start by saying how much the Council on Aging means to Beth and me. Beth's parents get in-home care from the Council on Aging, and Beth's mother, who's taking care of an older husband, she couldn't do it alone. She's 76, and if she kept on, she would break, and we have a double problem. And it gives her a chance to get out of the house and have care. And they're fun. They treat Clarence like he's their father. They have fun and do stuff. And just that care for Beth's mom to get out. And I've been honored to do the Meals on Wheels runs, and it's pretty neat. And irrespective of the socioeconomic neighborhood you're in, because you go from, you hit it all. The people that come to the door to get that meal, you're the only person, in many cases, you're the only person they see that entire day. And they tell you that, and they hug you, and they want you to stay, and you have to go. So, man, I'm telling you, just what we're going to raise tonight, just the gasoline for these volunteers, that kind of stuff matters. So don't trivialize what happens tonight, and I know you won't. All right, that's all the serious that I'm going to do. Lisa Kennedy agreed to donate a painting that she did for us to auction off. All right, this is an oil painting. It was created from a photo that Lisa took at the Waikato River behind the Huka Lodge in New Zealand. And its name is Erini, which means peace in the native Maori tongue. Lisa's been painting since she was 12, and she did this one. It's in oils, and what's the size, Lisa, 20 by 30? Okay, good. That may matter to somebody. Work with me. So anyway, we're gonna auction this off tonight. It's the only thing we're gonna auction off. I'd like to recognize my lovely assistant, Dean Kurtz, who's not only talented, but yeah. It's hard to be a hottie, Dean. It's hard to be a hottie. Beth and I want to start the bidding of this painting at $1,000. So we're going to open the bidding at $1,000. Okay. Thank you. Gary Crotty. $3,000, Mr. Fiesel. All right, thank you. $5,000, Jim France. Thank you, sir. That's a lot of fuel. That's a lot of, and I've got $10,000 with Gary Crotty in the back. Thank you, Gary. You did two hands, my friend. That's 10. 15,000, Mr. Ritchie. Thank you. 15,000. 15,000. Do we see 16? Do we see 16? People in the back, don't. 16,000, Mr. France. Don't make me come off of this stage. All right, here I go. 20,000, Glenn. 20,000, Glenn. 30,000. That's a bunch of gasoline. That's a bunch of people in homes doing the stuff you saw. Huh? Gary's not good at math. You should not, yeah. He's now stomping like that horse they train, yeah. That's good. 35, right here. 35, Jim France, 35. 35. This is great. $50,000. Glenn Ritchie just said $50,000. $50,000. 50,000 once, 50,000 twice, and sold to Glenn Ritchie, Glenn and Connie Ritchie. That's remarkable. Thank you. Thank you. Outstanding.
Race fans, it's time to salute our honorees, Bill France Sr. and Ann Bledsoe France. Our moderator tonight is the president of the Root Family Foundation and broadcaster with the Motor Racing Network. Please welcome Preston Root.
I started thinking about 50 years of Council on Aging, and I was having a lovely dinner thinking about all the good work that they do. And after 30 years, I still get nervous when I talk to my friends and I talk to important people and I talk about things that matter. And then, Bo, I have to thank you. As long as we've been friends, you made my job so much easier because I was on the edge of my seat. That painting for $50,000 is not only a great bargain, but it is so important to the Council on Aging. Jim, thanks for your bids. John, it was exciting. It's pretty neat.
Yeah, I'd like to ask Sarah if she would, because Lisa never does anything that I ask her to do. If you could get Lisa to paint another picture, I will contribute another $50 to go with Glenn. And Lisa, if you'll make it a Florida scene, we'll try and sell it to Hyatt for $100.
Lisa, thanks so much. That is inspirational for all of us to see the work and to have it inspire everybody, family and friends included, to support the Council on Aging. 50 years ago, the Council on Aging started what it does today, the good work that it does. The Daytona 500 that year was won by Mario Andretti. Last place in that race was Cuckoo Marlin, whose son went on to win 2 Daytona 500s. Seems like a long time ago to some of us. Was memorable to others. I'd like to turn back the clock and remember how fortunate our community was to have such a family-oriented and caring couple who, through their hard work and passion, transformed not only our community, but the entire American sports scene. We're here to honor their legacy to community, but also to celebrate the lasting impressions they made on family and friends, many of which are gathered here this evening. I'm sitting with 2 people tonight who were not only part of the NASCAR family, but both shared the heavy lifting to achieve the grand plans of Bill Sr. and Annie B. Jim France is the youngest son of Bill and Ann France. He's also the chairman of International Speedway Corporation and chairman of IMSA, the International Motorsports Association. John Cassidy is a lifelong friend of the France family who worked with the family for more than 60 years to provide counsel in their professional lives, but also was a fierce supporter of the concepts of a family-run organization. He was a cashier at the Tunnel. He was their lawyer on Capitol Hill in Washington. He was and is a dear friend of the NASCAR family. Military flight teams, globally famous radio announcers and television plans, beauty queen pageants, the parades, and photo finishes. They were all part of this year's Daytona 500. They also were a part of the very first Daytona 500 in 1959, including the Blue Angels, who flew in brand new jets for the very first time. Gentlemen, it's really nice to be up here with you tonight. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Preston.
Jim, I'd like to start when I went back and looked at some of the pictures of the original race, the thing that stuck with me the most was the things that I talked about that were part of the very first race that translate to some 50-some years later that we still see in the race today. Your mom and Ann were an inseparable pair, in life certainly, but in racing, business as well. Working together was the success formula for them. When you guys were here for the original 500, when you came to the track those first few years, and I talked to John about this, the heavy lifting, what were days like when the Blue Angels came to the first Daytona 500, when the work was done by you?
Well, I was still in school, so I didn't do a whole lot of work at the beginning there. I was out at the track when they were building it. My brother was heavily involved in the construction of it and running tractors and equipment out there with Dad. I got to come out and kind of play in the mud there for a while. It was actually a swamp that they started with. And then when the track was finished, I came out and as a spectator, basically. And then shortly thereafter that, my mom got me started stubbing tickets at the gate. I wasn't allowed to handle the money, but I got to stub the tickets. Later on, I worked my way up to be a ticket seller like John did. John started out as a ticket seller, by the way.
I remember pulling up to the tunnel, fascinated by driving underneath the racetrack and having the ticket sellers and the people that collected the money wearing like a nail apron. You did that.
Oh, yes. As part of the education process, anybody that was going to learn about the sport and Daytona and NASCAR had to go through some rituals. And one of them was working the front gate just outside the tunnel. And Annie B had a special program. She had these big canvas aprons with deep pockets. And the one most important thing that you had to know is, you know, in this, we're talking in the early 60s, 61, 62, you didn't see a lot of $50 bills, and hardly ever did you see a $100 bill, but you saw $20 bills. And $20 bills had to be treated very specially. Ann would insist that if you got a $20 bill on the front gate, you had to crinkle it all up and make a ball out of it and stuff it in the apron so that you didn't make a mistake when you're making change and hand out a 20 instead of a 5 or something. But we did it. And then we'd bring the aprons in and we'd give to the office, and we would take off our apron and get a new apron and go back and keep doing the same thing.
This year's race ticket for the 2016 Daytona 500 was an incredible piece of engineering. It was the most beautiful race ticket I've ever seen. But those first tickets may be a little bit different in appearance, Jim, but those tickets were just as important for the admittance and keeping track of them.
Yeah, I'd like to point out that Lightning Eppin is sitting down here. And Lightning, I think, was selling tickets here today. She comes to work every day. She's will be 96 in July. And, she's worked with Mom in the very beginning, and in fact, she was up in Raleigh, North Carolina, running. She and Joe running a track up there, and moved down when Daytona was built, and has been part of the ticket office operation from the get-go. So, Lightning.
John, we talked about one of the most interesting stories to me. I've been coming to this place a long time, not as long as many people here, but your introduction to Bill France Sr., one of the people that we honor tonight, was not only...
It was, it happened in the early 60s, I think it was 62, and I was a special assistant to Bobby Kennedy, who was then the Attorney General. And I was at my office in the department down in Washington, and the most amazing thing happened to me. I got a call from Bobby, and he said that he had somebody in his office, and he said, this is a great big guy, and he runs something called NASCAR, and that has something to do with motor racing. Now, Kennedy had never seen, a race, but he was concerned because Bill had come to him, and this is so typical of Bill France. He always took the straight line, and he was having NASCAR was having a tremendous challenge from the Teamsters Union, seeking to organize the drivers. And they were using a lot of the criminal element. The Teamsters at that time was dominated by a criminal element. When Kennedy called me, he explained all this to me, and he said, you know, this guy France has got to be our friend, and we got to look after him. I'm sending him down to your office, and I want you to do everything you can to help him. And about that time, the door to my office opened, and there stood one of the biggest men I'd ever seen. And he had on a little funny pork pie hat and a tie that went down about that far. And he said, are you John Cassidy? And I said, yes. And he said, I'm Bill France, and we're about ready to become friends forever. And that completely changed my life going forward.
Yeah, I'd like to add we were looking at, we'd been contacted by the folks up in Montreal that had the Alouette football team. And they were looking at trying to find somebody to come in and add some value to their stadium there. So Bill and my brother had talked to them and said, we'll come up and take a look at it and see if we can run some short track racing inside of it like we do at Bowman Gray Stadium in Winston-Salem. So we go up there and we have a couple of days of meetings, John and Bill and I. And then Bill thinks he's got everything all worked out, and he flies back to Daytona to leave John and I to conclude the deal. And I think before he landed in Daytona, we had blown the deal up somehow or another. So we never wound up running at the Montreal.
We blew the whole thing out of the sky.
Those lessons are learned one at a time, and you mentioned the...
Of course, Billy did not help, because these people owned a baseball team.
Football, I think it was.
Well, they had an interest in a baseball team, and they took us out to a night game. And one of them asked Billy, they said, well, how do you like baseball? And he said, well, it's a little like watching grass grow. That did not help.
He takes off in the plane and leaves you to conclude the deal after something like that.
Yes.
You know, the thing that strikes me, you know, again, going back to the Blue Angels and the photo finish in that first race, your dad was dependent on technology a lot. I remember what was available at the time. I remember going up to his office at the top of the stairs there at the Turn 4 office building, and I remember seeing the multi-line phones lit up for the first time. Your dad used the phone a lot to conduct a lot of business with a lot of people.
I think the sad thing was that Dad missed the cell phone era. If he had been alive today, he would have probably had 10 cell phones on him, one on every pocket.
I always remember the story about your dad, Jim, that was when he was flying over the property that would eventually become Talladega Super Speedway, and where most people looked out the window of that plane and saw just forest. He looked out and he was envisioning the biggest racetrack in the world, 2.66 miles. And John, you said something that reminded me of that moment. You know, when you call Bill Sr. a visionary, he was a visionary. He saw things like that. But he was more than a visionary. He was somebody that got things done. He was a doer.
Well, he is the greatest visionary I ever met. However, and a lot of people don't appreciate this, he worked very closely with Annie B. because she would ask questions like in taking on the construction of Talladega. That was a huge leap. They had finished and they'd gotten Daytona up and running. And that was nip and tuck. That wasn't something that was a foregone conclusion. But Annie B. had a tremendous role in getting this track open because she managed money better than just anybody I know. And she could have money when she didn't have money. I don't know how to explain it. Bill Sr. could not have achieved what he achieved in either NASCAR or the ISC in terms of like Daytona, the track, without her advice and help. And when it came time to think about Talladega, Annie B. was very concerned about whether the patrons would come to the track, because the track is located in a real hard scrabble part of Alabama. The farms are struggling forever. It's very hard clay soil, and Annie was always concerned. And I'll never forget, the debates would rage at breakfast every morning up on John Anderson. And Bill would make the breakfast, and I came down one day for breakfast, and he winked at me and he said, "I've got the closure. I'm going to win this battle." And so he fried up some eggs, sat down, and he looked over at Annie B. and he said, "Annie, would you imagine a map of Daytona, and you draw a 50-mile radius circle around Daytona?" She said, "I got that." And she knew what he was up to. And he said, "Now I want you to take Talladega, and you do the same circle. And you're going to touch upon two of the biggest cities that we have in the Southeast, Atlanta and Birmingham." And she said, "So what is this point of all this?" And he said, "I just want you to know there are a lot more potential ticket buyers in Talladega than we've ever had in Daytona, because half of the circle is in the Atlantic Ocean and fish do not buy race tickets." And she kind of looked at me and she said, "Okay, I give up." And they were off and moving on Talladega. But when you have a visionary like that, and you're dealing with somebody, you've got to ask questions. Have you thought of this, and have you thought of that? She did that. And they were the perfect team to do it. Perhaps one of the most unusual teams I've ever seen. They were really something.
He had a great knack for figuring out how to break things to Mom. And I'd gotten out of the service, and Sharon and I just started dating. And we went to dinner with Mom and Dad at a Chez Bruchet restaurant on Seabreeze. And we're having dinner. And my family's getting to know Sharon. And Dad, out of the clear blue, he says, "Son, let me show you a picture of a boat your mom and I just bought." Mom had no idea that he'd bought a boat. So in this setting, she couldn't really say much. She kind of had to go along with it. So.
we are sitting in the shrine to that vision and to that hard work. And Jim, you know, it's been a long time that we've seen Daytona grow, but this year it transformed itself into a racetrack like none other in the world. You run out of superlatives to talk about what your folks did, what Bill Sr. and Annie did. When you look back at all of this, is it the evolution of the sport they dreamed of and of the racetrack they envisioned at Daytona that you think they would be proudest of?
Yeah, I'd like to say they'd probably be the first ones to point out that they didn't do it by themselves. I talked about Lightning. There's Jim Foster's here tonight, Betty Falk. There's, I think, a lot of people here tonight that worked with them over the years, but they've put together a really great team of people. And Dad had this a great ability to kind of see over the horizon and see things sometimes that other people couldn't see. And Mom had the skill set that he didn't necessarily have, of the detail of making sure that all the bills got paid. And as Dad used to say, she kept him one step ahead of the bill collector. And the teamwork that they had was special. I think that I got to give Lisa some credit here on the Daytona Rising project. That is absolutely something that Bill Sr., it's his type of vision that she pressed and came up with to take the Speedway into the next 50 years. This is our Super Bowl for the sport of NASCAR, and it's critically important to have the Super Bowl facility, I think, in this day and age, to compete with the other sports out there.
I've never been to a more comfortable speedway or motorsports stadium in my life anywhere. This is it. This year's Rolex 24, this year's Daytona 500. Until you were here for the first time, and I know so many people in this room experienced it, until you were here for the first time, you didn't know that it was a transformative experience. The way you watched the race changed. You were more involved, you saw better, and that takes me back to where we started this evening, is the vision in the first Daytona 500. 50 years ago for the Council on Aging, more than that, to 1959 for the Daytona 500. To me, this racetrack and this family symbolizes the caring and a monument to the community, and it continues to this day. All of the France family and the larger NASCAR family, as Jim points out, cares deeply about the people in this community, and this racetrack is a constant reminder, especially twice a year, when hundreds of thousands of people come here to celebrate not only a wonderful event, but what is community about racing, what is family about racing. There's not a more family-oriented sport in the world than NASCAR. The stories tonight have taught me about Bill Sr. and Annie B. that brought you both to racing with one idea, one learning experience at a time. The communities and the drivers, the friends have learned along the way about caring, fun times, and the tremendous fortune we have had to call Bill and Anne France part of our lives. Aren't we all blessed that tonight could happen, and that John Cassidy and Jim France, along with the France family and all the NASCAR family, could join us this evening. It's not often that you get to sit back and reflect on the history of our sport with folks like you. I appreciate being able to talk to you tonight up here, appreciate what you do for Council on Aging, and it takes all of us back to a time when Council on Aging started, and I want to just go back up to race control real quick to 50 years. 50 years ago, this is what the end of the Daytona 500, right where we sit, sounded like just before Mario Andretti was the winner of that race.
This will be close to a $200,000 purse, the largest ever offered by NASCAR for any race on any speedway. Bob Smith, come in, please.
We notice that Fred Lorenzen now is running all by himself. Daryl Behringer no longer with him, nor is Tiny Lund. He's out there all alone. And Mario Andretti seems to be picking up more and more distance on Lorenzen each lap. Richard Petty just blew an engine in the third corner.
Yes, indeed. We see him coming off the fourth turn now, coming in. And that great young man from Randall, North Carolina, has had
out on the fourth turn. Car number 40 spinning coming through the fourth turn. That's Jerry Grant. Number 10 also. That's Jim Hurtubise spinning coming through here. They're hitting the oil. Coming through is Mario Andretti. He makes it through. He makes it through the oil. Mario Andretti made it through.
The caution flag is out right now. White flag. And the caution and white are out together. This is the last lap. The cautions is out, so to all intents and purposes, that's the way it'll end up, with Mario Andretti the winner. His share of the Speedway purse is $22,500, and he will also get a sizable amount in lap money and in accessory monies as well.